mean, the holidays aren't until the 25th, 24th, 25th.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's the 1st. So if you could.
We still have Hanukkah. There's a whole week for that. Just, it's just the only thing is there's weeks that we can't use.
Hi, Toby.
How you doing?
I'm okay. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Hey, Sonia.
Okay. Well, I know, Devontae, you have something else to do. So I want to make sure that we're mindful of that, and we could record whatever you say to read at the next meeting. It might be obsolete by December 8th. I'm not sure. But we should at least have it in a recording in our minutes to say that this is what you presented.
Okay.
And okay, so I just want to. Let me just open up this doc here.
Okay.
So what can you just give us an update on what's happening as far as you know?
Okay. So I'll introduce myself first. My name is Devontae.
Sorry.
It's okay. So my name is Devontae Graham from the Department of Education Community Affairs Office. My role is being the borough manager for Brooklyn. So I communicate with you all, the community boards and things like that. As we know, school reopening, this thing changed day by day, minute by minute. So the last updates I have before I went on left to go home to Florida for Thanksgiving, I'll give you those updates that I had and some of the updates I got today that we can do. So I'll begin now. So on November 18th, we temporarily closed school buildings for teaching and learning. All New York City public schools students transitioned to fully remote learning. We now have a plan to reopen those school buildings for in-person instruction for many of our students. As always, health and safety remain our highest priorities. This plan applies to students in blended learning, including those who recently opted in. Students who chose fully remote learning prior to building closures will continue to learn remotely full-time. And please let me know if I'm going too fast or anything like that. I know I have a Southern accent, so if you need
excuse me, yeah, Devontae, can you go back? You said who's going to be fully remote learning? High schoolers?
No. So the students who already chose to be fully remote learning will stay remote learning. And I'm going to get into high school students in a minute.
Okay, I thought I heard that. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. And I know that there was a big thing that came up about having to choose, make a decision to be fully remotely funded.
Yeah, that deadline.
Yeah. And that's a hard deadline, and there's no way to move in and out of that.
Yeah, that's the things that a lot of parents and advocates came to us about. And that deadline has already passed, but I think we're going to think about it a little bit more and see what we can do going forward. We have no definitive decision on that yet, but as of now, that deadline has passed to opt in and things like that. I'm going to give this schedule.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but today the mayor spoke about high schoolers remaining remotely, and I have a high schooler, and I was told that I could opt in and they extended it, but everything's so unclear. I just want some clarity with that, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna go through my whole little spill of notes that I created for this meeting that I had just dropped down. I think we're gonna get to high schools and things like that. So here's the schedule, our reopening schedule. So students in grades 3K through the 5th grade will return to in-person learning beginning on Monday, December 7th. This includes all students 3K through 5 across early education and elementary school types, as well as district pre-K centers, K-8 schools, K-12 schools. And so here we go. This excludes schools that are located in our state designated orange zones and red zones. Students in all grade levels in District 75 will return to in-person learning beginning on Thursday, December 10th.
Even high schoolers?
Yes, in District 75. So students in grades 6 through 12, this includes high schoolers, outside of District 75 will continue to learn remotely until further notice. So those are for the high school students and things like that. So they will remain fully remote. I think that answers the question about the they had the high school students. So your child will remain remote until further notice. Students that have recently traveled outside of New York to a place that on the state's travel advisory list must quarantine for 14 days unless they test out of quarantine. You can see more of that on the state guidelines. All reopened schools will have new mandatory weekly random in-school testing for COVID-19. Any student in first grade or higher returning to school buildings must submit a consent form for COVID-19 testing in school by their first day back in the school buildings. So some parents probably filled out a consent form before all this happened, but we're going to ask those parents to do it again just to make sure they're on the updated list of consent forms. 3K, pre-K, and kindergarten students are excluded from random testing. Given the ongoing fight against citywide resurgence of COVID-19, this mandatory weekly testing for COVID-19 is a crucial part of our plan to keep all schools safe. The test is quick, safe, and easy. I'm gonna have a link if you guys want to see how the testing is going to be conducted at the schools. I can share that. I don't know if it's a chat function in here. I can.
If you put it in the Q&A, I'll just copy and paste it out of there.
Okay, yeah, I'll do it after this. Just give you guys a link. This goes back, even if you have already submitted a consent, we ask you to do so again to ensure your student has the latest consent form on file. And I have that link if you guys need that to consent form.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Exemptions for in-school testing will only be granted in certain limited cases. For students who need a medical exemption due to a health condition that would make it unsafe to undergo testing, this like facial trauma or nasal surgery, families will be able to submit a separate form for consideration. But it must be signed by a doctor with documentation from a healthcare provider. For students with disabilities who cannot safely be tested in school due to the nature of their disability, families will be able to submit a separate request for an exemption. Exemption forms will be available in English today, and I have the link for that. And translations will be made available shortly thereafter. If a child comes to school on their first day back for in-person instruction without a consent form on file, principals and school staff will contact the family to obtain consent. After that, students without consent forms on file who do not have a medical or disability-based exemption submitted must be moved to fully remote instruction. As of now, schools in orange zones remain closed for in-person learning. We are working with the state to develop a plan to reopen buildings in orange zones as soon as possible. We'll share that info ASAP. And I believe Williamsburg is an orange zone. I can't remember. But I live in CB1 right here on Johnson Avenue, 222. So I believe we are orange zone as of right now. There are currently no red zones in New York City, but per state and school buildings and red zones must be closed also. We're still running a situation room at our central building. We'll support schools that experience cases, closing classrooms and buildings where necessary. And we're definitely grateful for the flexibility and patience as always. So do you guys have questions about what I just went over? As of currently, that's what's going on.
So that means the district 11211, the district where we're in, then it's all remotely for high schoolers. I mean, you said that the orange zone, with the orange zone, that means there's no opportunity to opt in or anything because there's just remote. That's it.
Yes.
So I think, because this is going to be ever changing, and I think that the focus needs to be on when things get back to normal, because to be honest, what you just said to us tomorrow could be a completely different thing.
Yes.
And next week when we present it at the board, it could be a different thing. So I want to be able to talk more long-term strategy, which I think means that we have to have the superintendents on the call. So if you and I could work offline to figure out a day in the coming weeks before Christmas to work that schedule out, that would be really helpful.
Yes. And so I'll work on that tomorrow. I'll reach out to the superintendents. The ones you invited, I believe, was Superintendent Ross, Executive Superintendent Karen Watts, and I believe Superintendent Winnicky, I believe. So I'll reach out and get a day in the coming weeks that works for them. What time that preferably?
It's this usually 6:30.
6:30. Okay. And so I'll work on that tomorrow, and I should have something for you by the end of the week that we can work on and build towards.
Also, I don't know if
Dana,
I'm curious.
Toby, go ahead, Toby.
What is happening? Like, what happens if a student lives in a home where he doesn't have access to Wi-Fi?
yep, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, or if he has issues with the device. Like even
That's
people that aren't struggling financially, sometimes they don't have enough computers or enough phones for all their children. But Wi-Fi is also a major issue. How is the system addressing that?
that's a major issue. I also work with our device distribution and things like that. So we want to make sure equity across all zip codes and neighborhoods and things like that, even for students in shelters, temporary housing, and all those different things. That's an ongoing issue that we have yet to solve completely. I'll be totally transparent there because I see this firsthand and every day. But if you know a student, know a parent that has issues receiving a device or has internet connectivity problems that might just need a hotspot, please reach out to me. I control our devices. I work with our internal tech team to resolve these issues.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
also
Devin, Dana.
critical
'cause-
follow
Oh,
up on.
sorry.
I
And
would
so I'm gonna leave my email in the chat and what
Yeah.
I'll leave.
fine. And I also think we should, Dana, we should send an email out to the community board members with instructions on what to do if they know of children or
Yes.
a teenage community. And
Yep.
the other thing is, I think it's extremely critical that this move up the chain, this
Mhm.
idea that there has to be locations
Mm-hmm.
for students that don't have place, don't have, it's a combination of space to, so if it's 10% of kids or 15% of kids, even if school is closed for everyone else, there have to be safe, accommodating locations where they come to do their work.
Yeah.
Very critical. You
So,
can't do that across the board.
Dana, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I've been waiting 3 weeks. My grandson that I'm raising had his computer. I spoke to the teacher yet again today about the device because my internet is horrible.
Okay.
It's a nightmare. And they promised me 3 weeks. They say they're behind, that they can't get the devices, that they're still working on it. So, a time limit, a time frame that we're gonna get it because he's suffering. I don't know what to do. He's 16, he's discouraged. I need to know, what to do next.
Exactly. So yeah, I get a lot of stories like that. So some schools are going through what we call attestation, where they're doing inventory about how many devices they have, and they'll report that back to us. So when we reach out to whether that's Apple or Google to try to order these devices, we have a number that we're looking for. But does your son have a device right now from a school device that they gave him?
Never. He's always had his own computer, home computer with my internet Spectrum, and it's horrifying. And I
So,
have a
so
few
what you're
people-
saying
yes,
is you need the hotspot. He has the computer. He needs a hotspot.
yes,
Okay.
So I can leave you my email. Let me
great.
see. Let me see. Into the chat function.
Thank you, Dana.
If you drop it in the Q&A at the bottom, I think is where you do that.
My Q&A.
Yeah.
That's a 0 there. I'm using my phone, so.
Oh, where's it? Okay, I could share Devontae's information in the chat. I have it. And just to,
Thank you.
and this is kind of why I wanted to have, so I've been working on this for students in Brownsville and East New York and Bed-Stuy since March. And I spent $10,000 of my organization's own money to buy kids hotspots and computers because of course, and this issue is not ever going to be resolved. There is no intention to really resolve this issue by the city. Unfortunately, that is the truth that we have to all face, which is why I want the superintendents to come here and explain to us what happens when we all go back to school and the amount of months that were lost. How do the equity conversation, we're so far past the equity in devices and it's been too many months. We're past that. What are we going to do to ensure that those kids get to where they need to be, to where their peers are when their peers got to go and do school in pods in Williamsburg,
Right.
their parents have pods and all this other nonsense that they're doing right by their child, and I understand that. But to me, the equity conversation is kind of over as far as the devices. Because if you guys haven't figured it out and the kids haven't gotten the devices,
Right.
knew March 15th was never going to happen,
Yeah.
we're not going to hold our breath that they're all of a sudden going to appear on Christmas morning. We know what
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's a big concern because they're constantly calling the teachers or the school, and I'm frustrated. I think I'm not neglecting my child for education. It's just that he can't get through, and it's calling. It's just frustrating because then they think that we're being neglectful when it's not the case. That's
Yeah.
my concern. They'll
Yes.
come after us, oh, educational neglect or something, and it's frustrating. It's been since March,
Mhm.
and the kids have suffered. It's horrible, horrible system. I know it's not perfect.
Oh yeah.
It's the only system we have, and we're trying. I get the thing with the deal with the COVID, but something's got to give because you can't hold the parents responsible. Something that the city has to take care of.
I see you just shared my email, Dana. And so
Yeah.
if you can reach out to me, Sonia, just give me your child's, I'll need his date of birth and also his
Oh, yes.
Oasis number.
Thank you.
And I may send you a form, just like a request form for a hotspot so I can have something on file, so I can have
Perfect.
internal tech team to look to have something on file. And that's where they can follow it through the system. Because I don't personally follow it, I'll give it to the internal tech team and I'll keep asking for updates and things like that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. I'm sorry. I just have to get it out.
Oh yeah, I totally understand. So yeah, I'm happy to help. If you have any more cases like that, Dana, that you work with students that don't have a device or lack internet connectivity, please reach out to me. I can see what I can do, what our internal tech team can do, to try to remedy some of these situations.
And are you guys looking at the missing kids? Not meaning sending ACS after them, meaning like if we have kids that haven't shown up to school all semester, is the DOE going out and finding them and asking why? And it's usually because they're transient or they don't have devices, whatever. Is any of that happening? And not as a punishment to the family, but just to get them engaged.
So that won't be my department. My department would be like community affairs. So it most likely be our Office of First Deputy Chancellor. They're in charge of looking for these what we call invisible kids that are not showing up on like these different forms that we have or documentations or things like that. Those students. So it's more with our Office of First Deputy Chancellor. But my office, we definitely can see that we're trying to find different ways to push our other DOE departments to look for those kids and how we can bring them to light. Because we know how many I get requests, device parents, advocates reaching out to me every day, and we know like for every 10 advocates that reach out to me, it's 100 more parents that's out there that don't have a device or just don't know who to reach out to, and things like that. So we're definitely looking to try to uncover as much students as possible. In
addition, you have those parents that are working and they have high school and middle schoolers at home that they're not being really monitored. And people tell me, I've spoken to people in the neighborhood where they have to go to work.
Oh, yeah.
And their kids, they're trusting their kids to log in or do what they need to do, but nobody's properly supervising them because they can't afford to get a sitter. I mean, there's a lot of things going on that we need to like address like ASAP.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I definitely look forward to having the superintendents on the call. Talk about different policies that they want to implement to make sure we're trying to make this the best experience for every student. And I look forward to you guys just sending me information. I'm working with you, Sonia, for your son to try to get him a hotspot that's working. I'll do that tomorrow once just reach out to me with that email. And I may send you a form, just like a request form, but I'll tell my internal tech team to look out for it to see can we speed this process up.
I appreciate you.
And Devontae, I know you have to go and this was a last minute scheduling, but we do appreciate you taking the time just to brief us. And, you have my email. So if things change dramatically before the 8th, if you're able, that's when our next community board meeting is. And we're going to present this to the community board. If there's big changes, if you could just let me know.
Okay. I'll keep
But then I'll just be talking to you offline. Because like I said, for me, I'm concerned about post because everything right now is triage and I don't have high expectations of the Department of Education to triage anything correctly.
Yeah,
well, guys, Devontae has to go. So does anybody have any last minute questions for him?
Thank you, Devontae, again, and stay safe.
Okay, you too. And don't forget to shoot me that email so I can have
Dana, can you share the information with me?
Yeah, I put it in the chat, Sonia, but if you didn't get it, I'll send it to you privately.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, perfect. We can work off that. Once you send me an email, I'll probably send your form back to just submit something on file. Then we'll go from there.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Alrighty. Any
All
more
right.
questions? Oh, we good?
Dana, I see that Taj has joined the group.
Yeah, so let's have Taj talk now. Thank you, Devontae. We appreciate you.
All right. Talk to you guys soon.
It almost feels pointless to have a conversation with him because everything tomorrow could be different. Literally, there's no consistency. There's no rhyme or reason. And I don't
agree.
know.
Could you just clarify for a second? Because I didn't think,
Mhm.
can you clarify the latest announcement from the mayor is only
Yeah.
for elementary schools? So
Yeah.
high schools are still closed now?
So high
Yeah.
schoolers are closed indefinitely, right? So to be determined.
Because
Because I guess because they're older and they have a higher contraction rate. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's no rhyme or reason to these things because D75 high school students are going to school.
what's D75?
That's like the special ed.
Yeah.
So even though they're in high school, the D75 kids are going in, but
No, there's no reason is the answer. I got it.
and honestly, Toby, when they decided to close schools in March, I immediately raised money and bought all my kids laptops because I knew that the DOE was never going to give these kids laptops.
And it's very nice that you did that. Even worse than the laptop situation is functioning Wi-Fi, real Wi-Fi.
Oh, and you know what else? We were buying hotspots and they were out of stock. To get the physical hotspot was out of stock. I was on waiting list. So
Wow.
it was March was absolutely nuts. And I have kids that I gave devices to didn't get theirs till August.
They're basically now in their second year of school, halfway through their second year of school almost. That's a lost year.
But that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. What we should be focused on as a committee is making the equity piece when schools reopen.
Right.
How are you going to make sure that all these kids that you failed
Right.
are caught up?
Yeah.
Because there's no way that any of these kids are going to get the Wi-Fi and the laptops and if that was ever going to happen, it would have happened. It's not like this is week 1 or month 1. We're in 8 months now.
Even if they do, I don't know when they're going to do these studies, but I saw from my own kids and I see from my nieces and nephews, not everyone's capable of learning like this. A lot of
Yeah.
people can't do it. They just can't do it. I don't care if they have HD TV, 48-inch screens. Some
Yeah.
not engaged like this, sitting in a
Absolutely.
apartment.
Right. I mean,
agree.
Giovanni, I know, do you want to share it all about what your school is doing and what you're seeing as?
And I'm sorry, Dana,
Yes.
Taj has her hand raised.
Who?
Taj Sutton.
Sorry. Okay. I don't have the mechanism. I can't control that. You have.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thank you for the invitation. I share your fury at this point. I haven't been in the community with CB1 yet, so I'm happy to be here tonight. I won't take up a huge amount of time. I do want to let you guys know that at the Community Education Council level, what we are trying to do is create the conditions for the accountability that we know is necessary. Completely agree with you that if the DOE was going to do its job, it would have done it already. But I am concerned that what we're noticing, a new form of inequity that has come out of COVID-19 is this chasm between our blended students and our students who are fully remote. And so as the DOE and the mayor continue to have their stick measuring contests and put our children and our school staff's lives at stake and throw us in and out of chaos repeatedly, what we're thinking about is where our resources going, right? And we know that in an attempt to open the biggest school system in the country, right? Because that's what they keep saying. They've funneled a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of personnel into this blended model. This blended model that we were promised was going to allow our parents to go back to work and give our children this consistency, right, and this socio-emotional support that guess what, they're not getting, because we continue to be yo-yoed between open schools, closed schools, and this strange in the middle situation that we find ourselves in. So some things that CEC 14 really wants to focus on are devices and Wi-Fi, not to make up for lost time, but to try to ensure that things don't get that much worse for our students who have spent almost a calendar year with no way to engage in the remote learning that's been going on. We also are thinking about how can we improve remote learning, because we know the infrastructure does not exist, and we might be looking at another school closure, even with this partial opening, because we have not gotten proper consent for all of our children. Everyone is still not being tested. Our testing and tracing apparatus is incredibly lackluster, incomplete, inconclusive. They're not communicating with families. There's no transparency. A lot of our families who do not speak English as a first language cannot even, if I can't read the consent form, guess what? I can't sign it. So outside of all of these other things, we're thinking about the logistics and like, what are our asks before we're comfortable sending our children back to school? As much as we need it, as much as we would love schools to be open, as much as we're like dying trying to work and support our children remotely, thinking about the pressure we can apply on the DOE, at the mayoral level, at the city council level, right? And what are the ways we can bring students, teachers, and families and communities together? Because none of us are winning right now. The teachers are struggling, families are struggling, students are struggling. So these plans that they keep laying out, they're not working for anyone. But long term, I think some of the things we really want to focus our energy on are, if they're not going to do it right, then what are the local solutions around Wi-Fi and devices? And what are the ways we can apply pressure to improve remote? Because even with the schools open, a large majority, if not all of our students are going to be remote, at least some of the time, just because of how the blended model is structured. So what are the ways we can support teachers in this remote space? What are the ways we can provide mental health and socio-emotional support for our families? And then what are the ways like basic needs are being met, right? Mutual aid, food pantries, they're running out of supplies, but we still have to think about our students in temporary housing, our students and our families who are food insecure, who are housing insecure, and just thinking about community-based solutions as we continue to hold elected leaders and the DOE and the UFT and the mayor and governor's feet to the fire.
So thank you for that. A few questions. One, are all the CECs working together as a joint effort to apply this pressure on the city level?
Yes. A lot of times what happens as we pass similar resolutions, for example, in District 14, we just passed a resolution for free universal broadband. And so the goal, I think as of today, there are 6 other CECs that have passed a similar resolution. And so once you gain that kind of momentum, then what we often do is we present those resolutions as citywide resolutions as something called the Panel for Education Policy. They meet once a month, and they're basically the kind of like city council before the chancellor and the mayor, and they deal specifically with education. Do we think it's a rubber stamp? Yes. Do we show up anyway and make them feel bad? Yes, because we want them to at least know, you're not fooling communities. We see what's going on, and it's not serving our families and our schools.
So, I work on public safety and policing and local solutions and whatnot. I really, again, this is great. We have to keep grinding and support our young people right now. But I really think this is a long-term conversation. We have a mayoral election coming up along with all these city council spots. And we can never be in this situation like this again. We can never allow anybody to go and give campaign speeches and be satisfied. We need to present policy plans and proposals that we write, not consultants, and figure out ways to hold them accountable to enacting them as a collective, because this is despicable.
Agree 100%. We actually, I'll send you guys, well, I'll send it to you, Dana, because I have your email. You can send it to the board. But we passed we created a 4-page resolution in August that addressed all these different things that the DOE is refusing to address, and have like community-based solutions that include students, families, teachers, and also our community-based organizations, because you know, a lot of times that's where our support comes from, right? The funding doesn't go there, but that's who supports us.
Well,
And-
and that's another problem here, right? Is if we did an audit of the Thrive program and the DOE Tweed building, it would produce really shameful outcomes.
That is 100% true. So yeah, I think we agree on a lot of things. I think it's just about connecting the dots and kind of creating something that we all feel strongly about and can advocate for. So I will send you guys that resolution. I think there's some good stuff in there around very tangible things, right? And then also, yes, parent leaders across the city definitely want to apply pressure to these mayoral candidates. And there are so many city council seats open, like you said. So we want to be very clear on who's aligned with us, who is worthy of those seats. And then even if you know we're not going to get the seat, just holding people accountable and holding them accountable for their records, holding them accountable for their silence and for the decisions that do not serve our families. We are 100% on board with that.
Yeah.
Dana,
Mhm.
can you ask them, what about the academic resources, the tutoring, if kids are falling behind, some kids are straying because they don't understand the material, they only have those 3 or 4 hours to work at remote learning. However, they need other resources, they don't understand the material or the work, where can they go?
Yeah, I mean, Taj, I'm sure that you guys are working with local, like I know my CBO is doing tutoring. We're doing virtual tutoring with virtual tutors, and they're doing one-on-one work. We're also paying for their schoolwork. I'm sure, Taj, you guys have these CBOs in CB1 that are doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, we have like El Puente, Grand Street Settlement. They've been doing just arts ed with the kids, and then also like just holding space for homework help, tutoring, mental health support. They're doing it all.
Yeah. And of course, none of the CBOs are getting financial support from the city.
Yeah, if anything, you know, their budgets were slashed over the summer.
Right. And what is the communication like with the UFT or the DOE, considering that teachers don't have to actually teach a lesson on the screen? And everybody's collecting full salaries. Everybody's having the same challenges, but certain teachers are not opting in to are not doing their dutiful duties. What's that conversation like? Everybody's very sensitive about talking about the teachers, but we have to talk about it. Not all teachers are the same. There are some going above and beyond, and there are some not doing what they need to be doing.
No, we can certainly have the conversation. A lot of teachers are parents also, and so I think that makes it a rough conversation to have. But there is something to be said about content. One of the remote instruction improvements that CEC 14 has been calling for is like an improvement to virtual learning, right? What do we even mean when we're saying education, and what does it look like to educate a child in the virtual space? Because we have no consensus, and because we have no consensus and we have no expectations, you know, it's very easy to just throw a worksheet on the internet and say, boom, done. And while I understand people's individual circumstances, I do think that's a conversation that needs to be had. I know at CEC 14, we're really focused also, I want to be honest with you guys, we're really focused on like the mental, physical, and like emotional health of communities. And sometimes that, you know, that clashes with the academic piece, because and that's just like a reality that we're like sitting with, right? Like there's no right or wrong side to be on, but just being understanding that probably now more than ever, people's mental health is going to be affecting what they're able to produce or not produce. Something we have been calling for that I think will support like both of our points though is like professional development for our teachers, because since we went remote, there has not been a single citywide professional development for our teachers. So we're in month 9, and some of our educators are still having a hard time like muting the class, right? So there's just like basic steps that we can take at a citywide level that have not been taken.
So, and that also ties into the 2021 goals for the next mayor, which is we need to bring our education system up to a 2021 standard. And this is pre-COVID. Many schools are not where they need to be digitally.
For sure.
COVID aside, right? Having technology and closing the technology divide is not just about the devices, but about how to use those devices and using them as learning tools and whatnot.
For
So
sure.
really make sure our schools, under the best of circumstances, are not experiencing this huge digital divide.
Yeah, I think what COVID showed us also is that even in the worst of circumstances, like there is a lack of willingness to support those very same schools and communities that are struggling the most, because we know which schools, which PTAs can raise $35,000 in one night and support their kids. And we know which schools struggle to raise $4,000 for a whole calendar year. And so I don't think we can have the tech equity conversation without also having a really explicit conversation about racial and economic justice, and making sure that that is a focal point of any 2021, whether it's the mayor, city council, DOE, UFT. Like if they're not having that conversation, it's impossible for them to do their job properly.
And more than having the conversation, if they don't have a plan that was created with all community and power stakeholders that can be enacted. Because of course, de Blasio said that. De Blasio said all of this 8 years ago, and
Yeah.
had nothing. So
Right.
we need to be able to say, this is the blueprint, and this is what we expect to be done. And this blueprint was created by a coalition of parents, teachers, students, union members, whatever.
Yeah, a couple of really great things exist already. I know the More Caucus, it's the social justice caucus of the UFT, but they are like, so it's like two different worlds. And the More Caucus has something called the Health Justice Agenda that speaks about a lot of the things that you're talking about. So it would be great to connect with More. We also have a relationship with the Alliance for Quality Education. And even before COVID, like their whole thing is like fighting for public school funding, fighting for the funds that our schools are owed, whether it's fair student funding or like the formulas they came up with a couple years back. Our schools are owed like billions of dollars, and that was before COVID. So I think aligning with them, aligning with More, because right there, you know, that's teachers and parents. And then I know in terms of Mayor de Blasio, the DOE actually just got sued by a student group called Teens Take Charge around COVID and just this madness with screens and just the really blatant inequity. So they might be another great group to connect with, just so we have, you know, student voice, teacher voice, and parent voice, and then community voice from the advocates at the Alliance for Quality Education. But they already have some great things, and I'll send you guys like just a list of resources that you can check out and see what you feel like is aligned with the community board.
And is there anything that we as the community board can do to support you in what you're doing right now?
Thank you for asking. I think once you guys kind of read through things, you can make that decision. I think maybe pulling out the pieces of the resolution that you think resonate most, or that you might feel like you could advocate for. I think that would be great, because at that point, I think we can join forces and kind of, even if it's just at the local level, right? Because I think sometimes, you know, yes, we need to hold our most visible leaders accountable, but also there are like local solutions, right? So like our superintendent needs to be held just as accountable, because it's been 9 months that she also allowed our kids to go without devices, to go without Wi-Fi, et cetera, et cetera. So just thinking about local solutions as well as citywide solutions, I think is an important way we could partner. And then, you know, like, I don't want to say small things, like things that I think can be remedied, you know, and like don't require funding, for example, like language access in District 14. My Spanish speaking parents should not have to wait to get a COVID document or a school closure document in their language. That's outrageous. That shouldn't be happening.
Yeah. Unfortunately, none of this surprises me, but yeah. So what I think we could do is review the resolution and then write a letter of support for you.
That would be
in regards
awesome.
to the resolution, and so we could write letters to advocate for language access for students and families for all relevant materials.
Yes, those would both be amazing. And I can email you. I think our next CEC meeting is, let me look at my calendar. I don't want to tell you guys the wrong thing. December 10th, I believe. So next Thursday. But if you guys are available, I know everyone's on like 20 meetings a day. But if you guys are available, we'd love to have you. And we can also introduce you to the community.
Yeah, if you could just send us the link. It's December 10th at what time?
6 p.m.
Does anybody else have any questions? I know Tian and Giovanni, I'd love for you guys to jump in. Toby, Sonia, anything?
Thank you so much, Dana.
No, this was a very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, she was very helpful. Thank
Very
you so
helpful
much.
and critical information. Absolutely critical. Has to be brought up at the full board.
Really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys for having me. Really sorry if you can hear my son in the background.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna type all this up to present at the next board meeting, which, heads up, I cannot come to that because I have something with my young people, but Toby, perhaps you
I could, yeah, if you could send me the notes, I can supplement a little, and I could present very critical.
okay. And then Taj, I'm gonna talk to you online about how we could work together. Me as not a CE member, but as an individual, what we're doing around public safety, and then how we can continue to support you. And we'll review your resolution and work on the letters of support.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Giovanni, do you want to update any or say anything about what's happening at your school? I think you had another meeting, but.
Hello, everyone. No, my other hat, when I'm not doing 1,000 things, I'm assistant principal at the Williamsburg High School for Architecture and Design. We're located in the old Van Arsdale building. We're doing all right. We're a CTE school, Career Technical Education School. Our kids are getting live instruction, so it's done remotely, but the teachers are teaching, 43 minutes a period. The kids got the 8-period schedule. I will put in the school's website. You guys should take a look. So the kids do 4 years of architecture.
Wait, hold on, Giovanni, with live instruction meaning that nothing is recorded, that it's as if it's real class.
Yeah, and the teachers are taking attendance. So, the kids are showing up.
They're doing recorded sessions?
No, it's live.
As opposed, are there some public schools in the city that are not doing it live?
Yeah, most of them. Our teachers union agreed to this. We negotiated with them, and the teachers are teaching, and even the architecture classes are done this way. So they're teaching. So we're like one.
Hold on, excuse ignorance. Are you telling me that basically in a regular public high school, the unions are demanding that the teachers not have to teach live?
There's a balance. So it's like you have certain teachers teaching only online, and then you have some teachers that are in the school building teaching in the school building. We've just decided to live stream everything. So everything's done one way. We have the live streaming. Again, reached an agreement with the teachers union.
No, but how are students, and I just want to understand this because the first time I'm hearing a lot of this stuff. In a public school that's not doing it your way, and I only know my son is in private Jewish school, and last year it was all done live. Those other schools, the teachers are recording it. How is the content getting to kids?
So
In a full virtual situation.
In a full virtual situation, each school could be different, right? Some teachers could be posting a video of them giving the lesson. Some teachers could be posting the worksheets for the kids to complete, and then they'll do a check-in with the students. Everyone could be doing their thing following the union agreements.
What I'm going to say, Dana, on this point is having dealt with two kids who are in school remotely, and this is, how is a child supposed to function when when it's like so much chaos even in how school's being communicated? You know, wouldn't it be appropriate that everyone is doing live classes, whether the teacher is in their
I
own?
agree with Toby.
I can't even
Yes.
follow. I have a master's in business, and I can't even follow what Giovanni is explaining now. If
But what you're talking about, but go ahead, Sarah. Yeah.
I was just going to say, there's the reverse classroom setting where you can have the instruction that's pre-recorded, and then you have live time with the teacher to go over the material. That could be one format that is being
hard. It is very challenging for kids to have to deal with this at all. Wouldn't it be reasonable that a teacher do it the way Giovanni's describing, so it feels as much as possible like regular school, as opposed to?
But Toby, you're talking about so like, this is something that needs to be like, we have to all be honest about this. When it comes to this city and the way this government is being run and unions, you have Giovanni who really cares about his students and who has engaged and created a school culture that the teachers really care about the students, and they're working collaboratively to make it happen and make it work. But in other places, because of the union and because of all the other nonsense and the bureaucracy going on, there's nothing we can do to fight the union as far as this goes.
No, I'm just clarifying. You're basically telling me that every single school has a whole different system as to how the kids are being taught, as the bottom line. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Floor is back to you.
Okay. And Toby, you know the way we run our ship, but again, we're trying to get the word out about our school into the neighborhood, right? Because we're working right now with 318, 577, 582, 126. Those are all the middle schools in the area. We're recruiting for next year. We're at capacity, but we want to just keep going. So, check out our website. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. We could set up like a virtual visit if anyone wants to visit the school. This is my email. What I do. All right. And yep. Okay. All right. So feel free to send an email, and that's it. We're proceeding as normal. The biggest issue that we have is we have equipment that the students can't come into the building to use. So like the 3D printers, the the CNC routers, all that stuff, the fun stuff, the toys that the kids come to our school for, but they can't come into the building to use it. So that's one issue that we're facing. And then the other issue is the students use Autodesk, AutoCAD, right? Most computers can't handle it. You need a desktop. Our kids don't have the desktops. So the DOE right now, we're working with the DOE to try to get like a cloud-based version of it that the kids could use. But again, same thing that you guys were talking about before. It's taking forever. They've had 9 months, and we're still talking about getting the kids Wi-Fi.
Honestly, as somebody who works with the DOE and the NYPD, this government is a wash. We need to be plotting and planning for 2021 and ensuring that we are never in this situation again. That's the only thing to do, because he doesn't care. De Blasio doesn't care. He doesn't care about the press. He doesn't care about people marching. He does not care. The city council is checked out. The speaker's not holding him accountable. So the borough presidents are running for all different offices or leaving or whatever. It's a complete wash. So we need to be plotting and planning for 2021.
I think with me, Dana, my frustration is that I got grandkids that are in middle school, elementary, and high school, and I think it's just different rules for different fools. It's frustrating.
That's 100%. My kids are floundering because there's schools. Sometimes there's class, sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's a teacher, sometimes there's not.
Yeah,
they have
I don't see in high school. I think with the elementary, you see the teacher, but high school, that's the scariest part. When they're in high school, I think that's when they need more of that structure because, you know, they're left to their own device. And it's so sad that they just have these little things on the internet and they have these little sections and they do this classwork, but I never see a teacher.
It's truly sinful. Well, hopefully, I sent in the chat Devonte's information. Hopefully, he could assist you with getting a Wi-Fi hotspot. And I'll type all this up and review the resolution for us to write a letter of support. Does anybody else have anything to add or want to talk about anything or put anything on the radar? Yes, Tian.
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Tian
I was
Brooks.
going to say that. I was like,
Sorry,
we have
yeah, I was late to the meeting.
Yeah.
This is my first time being on the committee, so I'm relatively new to the community board. I joined over the summer, and then well, life was happening. So it's nice to meet you all. My background is in cognitive science. I work with some of the schools in New York City public school system. We have a pilot program where we teach cognitive neuroscience. So we give students EEG headsets. They put it on their scalps. They can measure their brain activity, and we teach them how to run neuroscience experiments. So I've recently started a nonprofit where we're creating open source curriculum so anyone can use it, and starting to work with schools to teach data science education. So it's like trying to reimagine how math and statistics and science is being taught in the schools, but working in partnership with a lot of New York public school system. So it's
Dion,
nice to
do
meet
you,
you all.
hold on, Dion, this is Toby. How you doing? Do you
Hi.
work with Alan Hillary? You know
No, sorry, I work for Mozilla. So I work for Mozilla, the makers of Firefox, the browser. That's my daytime job. And then my secondary job is a nonprofit. It's called Computation Education Labs.
I would love to talk to you. I've done some work with the people at YouTube and Google around data analytics. So if you how do we connect?
Yeah, I'm very happy. I'll put my email in the chat. We'll love to chat.
Yeah, if you don't mind, let's connect. I'd love to chat with you and learn more about. I'm actually going to message you directly right now. I'll just send you my email address.
Okay, awesome.
Let's be in touch offline.
And Tia, where in the neighborhood do you live?
So it's also funny. I currently live in Ridgewood because in June, what happened is that my landlord wanted to raise the rent in March at the height of the pandemic. And there was like no protections. He wanted to go up $400 and was like strong arming everyone. So I moved in with my best friend in Ridgewood for like the past 6 months.
What?
Well, I was living in Williamsburg. I was at Grand Street and Union Ave for like the past 2 years. And yeah, I still wanted to be involved. So that's why I still been coming.
Yes, we appreciate that. Also, what you're bringing to the table, the intelligence aspect is it's greatly appreciated in this realm. Okay, cool. Well, we should connect offline. I know Toby's going to want to connect with you offline. When schools open back up, I know Giovanni's going to want to get you into his school because he wants all the partnership. But yeah, right. That's a new partnership, Giovanni, to add to the
That's
list.
what I do. Shake people down.
Right. As many as possible. But does anybody else have anything to add or want to say anything? Okay, I'm gonna work with Devonte to get a second meeting.
Oh, sorry, Dana, to interrupt you, but yeah, you talked about having a meeting like soon. I mean, I'm available. Just let me know. I think that prior to that, we should have a follow-up meeting and bring the superintendent so that we can really pick their brains if they have any. Sorry.
Yeah.
Allowed. Bye.
I agree. So I'm gonna work with Devonte to get a date so we can have something scheduled. And also for the next meeting, I'll have a presentation for what we're doing at my nonprofit. It's called We Build the Block, and it's policy proposals for 2021 for elected officials to sign on to and candidates to sign on to, because I've just been banging my head against the wall for the last 10 years of working in this but especially, for the last 9 months and with this entire administration, to make sure that we're really getting the progressive policies that best serve our communities and students, and the ones that make the most sense. So I will bring that next
appreciate
week
that.
as well. And hopefully Taj sends over the resolution and we could review a letter of support before at the next meeting as well. So I'm not going to be at the board meeting this upcoming week, but Toby, I'll get everything over to you beforehand so you have something to present. And everybody, if you'll have my email, and if you need anything, email or call me. Are we good?
Dana, thank you. Do we
All
have
right,
to, we're
guys.
gonna just do the letter, that's the resolution that we decided on?
Well, I'm going to wait for her to send the resolution. Then based off of the resolution that she sends, we'll draft the letter of support for it. Because she
Okay.
said there's 4 things in the resolution, so we want to hit all 4, and we want to add in language access for students and families.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so we will all be in touch soon then. All right,
Stay safe, guys.
have a good night, everybody.
Good night, stay
Good
safe,
night.
people. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.